Welcome to the Her Story Circle podcast, the podcast that brings you the extraordinary tales of everyday women who are changing the world. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'd like to acknowledge traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. Every week, we dive into the lives, challenges, and triumphs of women from all four corners of the globe. We're here to inspire, enlighten, and connect, sharing stories that uplift and empower. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and join us as we explore the incredible journeys of women shaping our future. This is Her Story, where every woman's voice matters. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Her Story Circle. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I am graced with the presence of yet another fascinating young woman. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, and share your amazing story with us today.
Hello everyone, thank you so much for having me here. My name's Dr. Emily Crosby and I am based just near London in the United Kingdom. And today I'm here to share a story with you. So let me tell you a story. It was a beautiful summer morning until my phone turned into a weapon. A stranger behind a keyboard tried to erase my career with a single click. I was out on my usual daily morning walk in the sunshine on a particular warm July, when I suddenly noticed a bombardment of death threats, follow requests, and notifications from strangers and people I'd never even spoken to in my life. There were accusations about my character, my professional integrity, and my heart felt that it stopped beating. My lungs stopped taking in air, and I froze for a moment. I doubted myself, my years of hard work, sacrifice, and determination of getting to where I got to as a fully qualified doctor, a child and educational psychologist who supports vulnerable children and young people. I stopped in my tracks and struggled to carry on walking. I made my way back home and alerted my husband, who couldn't believe it. With my heart pounding, I got myself ready for work as I normally would and got myself into the office. That drive was the longest drive I've ever had. When I got to work, I was eager to speak to the people there to support me, and those people all were already aware about it. These people had contacted my work, they found out my details on my work profile and had attempted to contact the media. They continued to relentlessly not give up by sharing misinformation on a toxic gossiping website and platform. I'd not even had a chance to tell my family and my friends at this point. And when I did, they also alerted me that someone that they knew, who we knew, had also shared this on their online platforms. I felt such humiliation and distrust, especially from that person who I knew in my personal life. Why would they want to target me? What had I ever done to them? I now know that this was their own anxieties, their own personal relationship issues, and their issues with themselves, and why they went to target me. As a psychologist with training in psychoanalytical theory, this helped me more than ever to try and begin to understand why those people may do so. Jealousy, envy, and insecurity, leading to projection, were all clearly at play here. And when my emotional brain took over, I was not able to think about this. However, when I started to settle and my cognitive brain came back online, I was able to use my psychological knowledge and practice and put this into my personal life. I decided I would not let them take my voice. Online harassment is happening daily, and before this, I only ever imagined it to happen to celebrities and people in the public eye, And unfortunately, due to my work as a child and educational psychologist with children and young people, I had been working with young people recently who had been experiencing online bullying from peers. This bullying historically would happen in person, at school, or out in the community, but unfortunately, it is now transferred to the online world, a world that you cannot run away from, a world that is there 24 hours a day. Unfortunately, there has been a rise in this occurring towards professionals, especially successful females, males too, but this type of relentless trolling, stalking, making false accusations and statements has recently been mainly targeted towards successful, intelligent, professional and businesswomen who are just trying to better themselves. They are often targeted by those who feel insecure and sincerely unhappy in their own lives. And instead of changing their lives themselves, they decide to attempt to bring those down who are succeeding and trying to do something well. This has not only had an impact on my professional credibility and reputation in my head, but more crucially, my person's sense of self, belonging, and confidence. This is something I can relate to so much and have battled with since as a result. It makes you question everything and everyone and casts continuous doubt into your mind. The online harassment consisted of slander, defamation of character, where strangers who are unhappy in themselves, not content in their own lives, use hurtful words to project their insecurities without any consideration of the human behind the screen. I went from a person who has always lived in the moment, a happy-go-lucky person. I've always been confident, sociable, and trusted my direction in life. For the first time ever, I felt myself riddled with anxiety. That feeling that I had learned so much about in order to help others that had struggled with it. And I was now experiencing that for myself. I'd always trusted people and wanted to help people, which pushed me to pursue the career I have. I enjoy taking risks, setting goals, and taking on challenges to make a better life for myself and family. I have always wanted to think dynamically and use psychology in a different way to make it more accessible for people struggling. I all of a sudden doubted every daily move and felt completely isolated from everyone in my life. I went from a motivated person with a daily get up and always on the go to someone who did not want to even leave their home. I did not eat or sleep properly for months. I thought that no one would want to work with me or spend time with me again. I was in a constant hypervigilance mode. For the first time ever, I developed a strong sense of made-up rejection in my mind. I stupidly doubted my husband's love for me as well as my family's and friends, which I know was never true. I pushed these people away in my head and put my armour on to protect me, what anyone does when they're in survival mode. Even though I now know there was none of this coming from them, and it was my own intrusive thoughts which was led from the feelings of uncontrollable anxiety caused by an extremely vulnerable situation. Let's face it, I know as a psychologist that we catastrophize and that I was doing this every single day. I was crushed. But at this moment, I thought, how would I support my clients who were going through these feelings of vulnerability? I was also always so good at helping others and knowing how to give out the advice. However, when it came to me, I really struggled with this. They could take my peace for the moment, but definitely never take my purpose. I've always encouraged my children and young people to use difficult times to teach lessons to new people. They were not going to take over my daily life anymore. And here's what I discovered that changed everything. How was I going to get through each second, minute, hour, day, and week of uncertainty? I ended up starting something simple in my daily life, and this is when I first established the 3 N's. Based on other theories and tools I had used with my young people in my practice as a psychologist. Name it, normalise it, and negotiate it. I'd recalled Dan Siegel's work to name it, to tame it. This led me to name the emotion I was feeling at the time, which was often anxious, scared, and even angry at points. I'd never felt the need to dig so deeply into my emotions before, which pushed me to recognise further more detrimental feelings, shame, guilt, and fear. That's the first N. This felt so alien to me as I was not aware of these feelings before, which led me to normalise these emotions and feelings. The second N. I am always telling people that your feelings are normal. I then had to work a way out of these feelings. I was going to manage this feeling, which led me to the third M, negotiate it. The latter two ends were in relation to John Gottman's emotion coaching work, and I had delivered lots of training on this. However, putting this into practice myself was really difficult. At this point, I had to negotiate what I was going to do to get me through each second and minute of the day. Whether it was a call to my parents, a call to my sister who was all the way in Australia, go for a walk, stop and breathe, a drink with one of my friends, or a chat with my husband, perhaps even eat some of my favourite food if I felt up to it. I had to do something to try and navigate this difficult situation and bring my nervous system back to ground. This helped me agency and emotional regulation into my daily life so I could function and still enjoy life's pleasures I had lined up. I'm now inviting you to protect empathy, not just online, but offline too. We never ever truly know what's going on for others or what others have been through. And we do not need to know, but we must always remain curious and empathic. I want to inspire others. I want to inspire you to know that we must remain curious and empathic. And I want you to know that you should never, ever let the fear of judgment silence you. I want you to know that feeling vulnerable and admitting it is actually a sign of courage, of resilience, that hard times do not last forever, even though they feel like it in the moment. But you will get back to yourself and you will be stronger, more aware of those and what is important in your life. This goes beyond my personal recovery, but is a call to protect online empathy and redefine courage in the digital world. I feel and see so many amazing people being silenced in their personal and professional lives out of fear of judgment from both total strangers and those close to us. People who we no longer need in our lives anymore. Our screens may separate us, but empathy is what reconnects us.
Wow, Emily, what an ordeal you went through. I can't begin to imagine what that must have been like.
I know. It was honestly horrendous, but do you know what? I never thought I'd ever talk about it or be able to, but I feel like I've done so much deep work on myself, and I've got so I don't want people to be silenced,
Mm-hmm. So how did that online attack affect your sense of identity, both professionally and personally?
So I think for me, professionally, I had severe imposter syndrome, which I think is really natural anyway. When you're someone that kind of is working at such a high level, you sometimes sit there and think, do I know everything? Do I know how to help these people? But when your own sort of identity in your personal life is affected as well, they definitely affect both. And that kind of feeling of, self-worth, that feeling of hypervigilance to criticality, you think, am I a good person anymore? Like, what have I done wrong? You're made to feel like you're done all these things wrong. And even though you didn't do them wrong, in your head, you think they are. Yeah. And I think, it made me really scared of trusting people, especially, in my personal life. It's been really tough.
Now, you mentioned that you still showed up at work the same day. What gave you the strength to face people?
I think it was that I know who I am, and I had to keep telling myself that I hadn't done anything wrong, and I knew that this was all made up, and I didn't want these people to take away all the hard years, the decade of work I put towards becoming a psychologist. I just knew I couldn't do that. And I actually, I stopped and thought, what would my parents and my grandparents have done in this situation? Periods of hard times and, historical times, what would they have done? And that just kind of gave me the get up and go.
Nice. Now, many women experience silent online abuse, but never speak up. What gave you the courage to share the story publicly?
I think the courage first for me was that it felt like I was the only person in the world. And at the time when you're going through it, it feels so alien and you do feel like you're the only person in the world. And then I realized how many other amazing young women and girls who have had this. And when I started, when I felt like I had the strength, nearly a year after kind of healing, I realized that a lot of these women who were targeted were all women that were trying to do something good. They weren't horrible people. they were all successful business women, you know, strong women who had gone through really hard times and had got through. And I thought, do you know what? I need to do something. I need to get out there and talk about it. I need to get my story out there to make other people feel. I don't want other people feeling as alone as I felt. I wish I had other people when I was going through it who to say, do you know what? You're going to be okay. You're going to get through it. And you're not the only one.
That's amazing. So, what did you learn about empathy from being on the receiving end of such cruelty?
I mean, I think empathy is such a key word in that because, you know, as a psychologist, you would say you're naturally empathic and you naturally have high levels of empathy.
Yeah.
But actually, this has given me a whole deeper level of empathy. And it's that whole saying that there's a difference between sympathy and empathy. We can all have sympathy for people, but empathy is when you really feel those feelings that other people are going through and you can really deeply empathize with them. And I learned that actually we never know what's going on for someone. And the fact that I got up every day, I took no time off and I carried on, still able to do my job, still show up for other people, still show up for my clients who are struggling with their mental health and well-being. It definitely showed me that empathy, you know, always wins. And it actually gave me a whole other layer of deepened empathy.
Yeah, it's incredible. Now, when you spoke in Parliament, what message did you want lawmakers and society to hear?
I just want them to know that people cannot, these people need to be reprimanded. You know, they can't hide behind a screen. There's someone behind these screens doing this. And I think media and tech companies, they need to be monitoring it more. There needs to be, you know, much stronger. We're constantly talking about people that are doing things, you know, in person. And it's almost felt like this isn't real life, but this is real life. And, you know, luckily I had the strong family and that strong sense of worth to keep going. But there's a lot of people that didn't. And there was a lot of people when I spoke to people at Parliament that, you know, had unfortunately had such detrimental impacts, you know, often leading to some people even taking their lives. And I just felt for the young people, the safety, we can't run away from the internet. We can't run away from social media. And actually, I think it's a really positive place when you're surrounded by the right people. But these people need to have accountability. They need to take accountability for their actions and they need to realise the significant impact they're doing. They think just a bit of typing, words on screen doesn't have an impact, but it really, really does.
So, what's the biggest misconception that people have about online trolling or digital harassment?
I think they think that they're secret and they think that they can't be found. But actually they can be. And there's a lot of laws I know now in the UK that we're trying to get through where these people will be held accountable and we can now find these people, you know, where technology is getting better. So I think that's the massive sort of misconception. People almost feel like it's not real because it's online, but it really, really is real.
That's really good to know that you can trace them and they can be held accountable. Now, as a psychologist, how do you balance being a professional helper while being vulnerable and human yourself?
I think it is a really strong balance, but I think actually it gives me that extra layer of connection with my clients because we are real people, we're not robots. And actually, I sometimes think that some of our clients and people I work with think that you're not having troubles, you're not having difficulties, and you're not struggling, but you know, we really are. So that is a real big thing, you know, for me. And I think by having that sort of connection, you know, with that sort of personal life, I can bring some of those elements into my professional life and say, I know how hard it is to feel rock bottom. And now I actually do, whereas before I probably didn't. So it has given me that layer of strength. So although it actually crushed me at the time, I'm now actually using it to my advantage to become a better psychologist.
That's amazing. So what role did community and connection play in your healing?
I mean, it was so crucial. I think if I hadn't have had my strong family and some really strong friends, I'm not quite sure where I would have been. And I think that was the key. It was really hard to talk about. And the first thing when you're going through something difficult, we automatically don't want to talk about it. We want to avoid it. But actually, you know, speaking with my family, who I know were my absolute rocks. They trust me, you know, no matter what, they're there for me. And they just got me through it. And some really, really strong close friends that would give up anything to come and literally just sit with me. call me. And that is, your community is what gets you through. And unfortunately, we're living in a world now where we're not often in that community. So I think that is really important to push for.
Yeah, it's crucial. Now, how can we teach young people to navigate digital spaces with empathy and self-awareness?
I think my key message for young people is that if you're feeling in a bad place and you're feeling hurt and you're feeling negative, and it probably isn't necessarily about the people that you're targeting, it could be in your own life. You may be angry at your parents, you're angry at school, perhaps your parents are separating, they're having a hard time, or you're going through a difficult time. Don't take to online. Work out whatever those feelings are away from the screen.
Yeah.
Online's great to kind of get advice, get tools, get strategies for mental health. But remember, there is a human being behind that.
Yeah.
And that can be spread, and it can be widespread so quickly. So if you are struggling, talk to the people in your lives, first. Talk to your schools, talk to your parents, talk to someone in your community, tell a friend.
Yes.
Don't take to online.
Yeah, because when you are online, you're not seeing the other person, you're not looking them in the eye. This is why it's so easy for people to be so cruel, right?
It really is. It really is. And you're not getting that response back. And it's almost like once you've sent it, but then it is there and it can be traced, and you can be held accountable.
So what advice would you give to someone who's afraid to put themselves out there because of the fear of criticism?
I would say in life, we're going to be criticized anyway. Not everyone likes us. We don't like anyone. That's normal and that's natural. But actually, it can open up so many avenues and it can connect you with so many people. And it's actually really brave to make yourself vulnerable. And it gives you that courage. And, there is that power of vulnerability, as Brené Brown speaks about. It is really strong and courageous to do that.
Yeah. And looking back, what do you wish you had told your younger self in that moment of despair? What 3 nuggets of wisdom would you have wanted somebody to say to you at that time?
First of all, you're going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. And this is all going to work out. I think second of all, stay true to yourself. Only you know you. Not everyone knows you. And third of all, just keep grounded in the present moment and stop worrying about the future and stop worrying about the past. You can't change those things right now, but just keep focused on the present.
That's really good advice. Not easy when you're in the middle of a storm, but I love it. Now, how has this experience shaped the kind of woman and professional that you are today?
I think it's definitely made me stronger. It's made me believe in myself more. It's made me not worry about the fear of judgment or criticism, and it's made me open to lots more opportunities than I probably ever would have been before.
That's good. It's a good outcome.
Yeah.
Now, if you could leave our listeners with one message about resilience and online empathy, what would that be?
It would be to never give up with the resilience. Just keep on going, even when it's hard. Keep showing up, and even if that is just getting up out of bed each day, going for a walk, doing something that makes you feel good, filling your cup before you fill others. And I think with the empathy, it's always to be curious and mindful that you just don't know what someone else is going through. And it often is probably something worse than you could have ever imagined.
Yeah, that's very true. Now, you've transformed this pain into purpose. What inner dialogue or daily habit helped you to move from survival to empowerment?
Yeah, I think it was definitely just to kind of flip those feelings, kind of sit with the feelings, not for too long, giving yourself that space, allowing yourself, whether that's kind of 10 minutes, half an hour a day, to have all of those feelings. Yes. And then kind of putting it in a box and saying, right, that's that. Now what am I going to do? And what is my purpose here? What is my goal? Put that to the thing. And there's much more to life than that other thing, those other things that were going on. And keep focused on those.
I like the fact that you didn't try to suppress the feeling or try to ignore it, because I think the more you try and suppress or ignore it, it gets stronger. Mm-hmm. But sometimes you just have to sit with the sadness and just let it have its way with you.
Definitely.
Then passes
Definitely.
through and you can move on to the next thing. So how has this experience changed the way that you guide children, teens, and parents through their own mental health challenges?
I think for me, it's definitely changed the way that I sort of connect with them and I empathize with them. And I can actually really sit with those sort of feelings of feeling like you can't give up. But it's made me really work with them to show that there is a hope, there is a future, and there is another side. And I think before, perhaps maybe I was doing a lot of that, kind of giving them strategies, but not actually really necessarily seeing what they could lead to. But now I can see what they can lead to.
That's so true. Now, in an age where so many seek validation online, how can we help young women, especially, separate self-worth from social media approval?
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good question. I think this is a big issue that we're seeing. So I think for a lot of young women who don't feel like they have that self-worth in their kind of own lives, they do take to online. They look for those likes, they look for those follows. But just remember, these aren't necessarily real people. These aren't people that know you. And actually, you've got to be strong in yourself, and you've got to believe in yourself and have that self-worth before taking to that online platform. So really focusing on knowing you, knowing that you have that self-worth, and working out perhaps why is it that you feel like you don't. What in your life, what happened to you perhaps in your childhood that maybe led to not having that, but it doesn't mean that you can't find that again, and there is always hope to find it.
So what does authentic success look like to you now after experiencing both public scrutiny and personal growth?
For me, everything's unique, and that is about being your authentic self, and to never worry about bringing your kind of personal, who you are, into your professional life. They do merge, but also you are allowed to have a separate personal life from a professional life, and whatever you need to do in your personal life to make you a better professional, then do it. But never feel like you should be shrinked or silence in your professional life for who you are as a person.
I love it. Now, if the trolls who try to silence you were listening right now, what would you say to them from a place of wisdom and empathy?
I would say thank you for making me stronger, and thank you for giving me this experience. And it's been a very unique experience, and it's actually made me a better person in my professional and personal life. So thank you.
Wow, that's a really cool way to reframe it. Now, Emily, is there anything I should have asked you and I didn't? And how can people connect with you, reach you, and get your help?
Yeah, thank you so much, Gertrude. So I'm on Instagram as Dr. Emily EP, and I'm also on LinkedIn. So please feel free to get in touch, message. And if anyone is going through a difficult time, I'm always here to support and direct in any way that I can.
That's wonderful. So if anybody out there is looking for support, is looking for help, please reach out. Don't try and do these things alone. A lot of times we go through major challenges in our lives and we think we can do it by ourselves. Sometimes there's professionals who've gone through this who can help you. I've got Emily's Instagram handle at the bottom of the screen. Or it might not be you. Maybe you know someone who's needing this kind of help. Please share this podcast, share this video link, share Emily's Instagram handle, help another person get the support and the help that they need as well. Emily, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Story. It's been an absolute pleasure sharing you with our community today.
Thank you.
And thank you to everybody who tuned in. The Her Story Circle is not just a podcast. We're a social impact movement that brings you the stories and voices of women from all over the world. We share our stories to uplift you, to inspire you, to energize you, but most importantly, to help take you from where you are now to where you're trying to go. So tune in again tomorrow when I interview yet another amazing guest. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world, and bye for now. Thanks again, Emily.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into the Her Story Circle podcast. I hope today's story has inspired you to believe in the power of our stories and the difference you can make in the world when you use your voice. I'm Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a rich tapestry of diverse perspectives. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these stories with more listeners. Follow us on social media by looking for the Her Story Circle podcast for more updates, and join us tomorrow for another episode filled with courage, resilience, and empowerment. Remember, your story matters, and together we're building a stronger, more inclusive world. Until next time, keep making her story.